Hello and welcome. My name is Damien Radford. I'm the Director of Engineering at Bugcrowd. Joining me today is security honcho and intrepid explorer Paul Moreno. Coming from a diverse security background and most recently heading up the security team at Pinterest. Welcome, Paul. Great to have you on board.
Thank you.
So today we'll be discussing some of Paul's experiences working in the security industry, the success of bug bounty programs and the bug bounty program at Pinterest, and what it's like working with engineers, integrating security feedback into the engineering process. So welcome, Paul. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, no problem.
So what's your professional background? Just give us a quick rundown of where you've come from.
Sure. Well, let's see here. I'd say back a long time ago, in the late 90s, I got my
It's
start.
not that far back.
I know. Got my start in terrestrial networking with AT&T. And after that, I kind of evolved my career and progressed into IT and operational services for a variety of different industries, including financial, luxury property management company, did some of my own consulting. And then later on, more recently, a couple game companies, most notably Zynga, and then I ended up landing at Pinterest after that.
So in terms of working at Pinterest, could you take us through some of your experiences as lead security engineer and some of your achievements and what you did there in your tenure?
Sure. Well, let's see. When I showed up, Pinterest didn't have any full-time security personnel. They do have some talented engineers in general, so I was expecting a little bit of a fire, but I didn't see much as far as problems. I really had an easier time kind of taking care of the low-hanging fruit, which included removing a lot of administrative rights from some of the earlier engineers for Amazon and systems level privileges. And then kind of developed a lot of the basic processes for security practice, and also officially established a security team there.
It sounds like you did some great things there, and it sounds like you took their security to a new level. What's your plan for the future, or what are your goals for the future?
Well, let's see here. As of next year, I'll be starting with Uber, and I will be the lead security engineer for Europe.
Just to move across to security in general, why do you find that it's important companies focus on security?
Well, let's see. A lot of companies don't really realize that when you grow a product, well, I guess this is a kind of a funny quote, if you build it, they will come. So as people build products, you end up having, it's a problem, but...
So the hackers will come?
Hackers will also come. So having, Pinterest most recently announced that they had 100 million monthly active users. With that amount of users active on the site, there's a lot of personal data that's involved and hidden within the dungeons of Pinterest. That data is really appealing to certain people on the black market. As they gain mass, the hackers end up coming to try to find a way to exfiltrate that data or potentially compromise their monetization system through advertising or utilizing the mobile app to maybe insert malware or something like that.
Gotcha. So it's important for a company that has a huge a huge user base to focus on security or have at least some dedication to creating a more secure environment for their users.
Absolutely, yeah.
In terms of selling that concept internally to Pinterest, did you find it was difficult or easy to do? Did they pick it up or did they run with it?
Well, I'd say it was a little mixed. There was people that had experience at other various companies that understood there was a need for security, but didn't have a concrete grasp on why. So for me, I did have a little bit of friction on selling it, mainly because they hadn't had any major breach in known history. So for me, I had used real world examples similar to like Twitter with their FTC problems.
Mm-hmm. So at Pinterest, what were your priorities for the security team? Where did you focus on first, and where did you take the team through the years?
Well, as I mentioned, I did a lot of low-hanging fruit, which was really around restricting administrative capacity to a lot of users. So really starting by doing a full assessment on identity management systems for me, that's one of my strengths, and a lot of network security cleanup. So I took care of what I felt was low-hanging fruit, and again started the policy and process part of security, moving as we delved into advertising and accepting payments. Utilizing PCI as really a crutch for maturing the security posture of overall engineering.
Now onto something that that interests me greatly. Could you describe the engineering team at Pinterest, the size of the team, and how focused on security that team is?
Let's see, when I left, I'd say Pinterest had about 50% engineers, maybe a little bit more, around 450 or so, mostly in the Bay Area. And I'd say they're kind of the cream of the crop. There's actually a report by Signal Fire that has stated that they're some of the better in the Bay Area and also amongst the unicorn companies out there. So the quality of engineering work was very high, with some security mindset, but nobody's perfect, so there was always going to be a need for some level of security oversight. But generally speaking, they had a pretty receptive feedback and open arms for security teams, but every now and then some friction with certain departments.
Okay, cool. So as I understand it, Pinterest had a responsible disclosure program running, and you helped them move to a paid bug bounty program.
Yeah.
Could you explain what those things are and how you pitched the bug bounty program?
Sure. So when I started, actually, another team had actually done a page on the website that was really nothing more than a responsible disclosure, legal verbiage, and an email for ingestion of reports. That email address went to a queue, which not too many people were really looking at, and I inherited. So after realizing that there was actually a lot of good reports, but a lot more bad reports, generally things that weren't related to security, being pushed into the queue, I felt that there was probably another way to better organize this. So the next generation or iteration was moving towards a bug bounty program where we could manage it and have researchers funneled in a more orderly fashion into a queue. And that being said, we could also gain by having some sort of signal to noise filtration. We had initially done an unpaid program because we had a prior knowledge of a number of vulnerabilities, being our site was not fully HTTPS yet. After we moved it over to fully secure, we felt way more comfortable in paying out for our vulnerabilities. And moving over to that, we had a huge uptick in reports as researchers were incentivized by money.
What were your ultimate goals in running the bug bounty program?
Well, it was elimination of the junk, I would say, that came through ingestion of a responsible disclosure page, and having it more focused into a platform that we could manage better than, in this case, it was a Zendesk queue. So the UI and overall platform itself was more focused and geared towards security researchers. Also, the return on investment was something that I had done some due diligence and peer questionnaires in the industry to see if there was a high level of value, which proved to be the case at a later point. Traditional pen testing, as a lot of people know, is very expensive. So bug bounties can be a cost-effective way to enhance your security posture.
So it seems like there's a lot of material out there in the history of Pinterest as to why it would be valuable to run such a program. Did you find there was pushback from departments, or some departments weren't interested in it at all?
Yeah, there was a little bit, mainly out of fear. A lot of companies do see attackers and hackers as a threat, and when you're openly running a program that is kind of funneling into your product, it is a little daunting. However, my retort was really that these people are doing this anyway, and if you get the ones that are white hats or on the good side to actually disclose what they find in exchange for money, in this case, it helps you fix those problems faster. So either way, you've got attackers pecking at your site. So this way you can at least solve the problem a little bit more effectively.
Yeah. So when was your program was it a capped cost program, or were you running an unlimited program? Was it private or was it public, so open to the world? What kind of program did you run?
We had initially, well, I think we still do, or they still do. Sorry, I no longer work there. They still run a public program. I'd say that the private would be beneficial, but Pinterest wasn't set up to do that. But in any event, the cost associated with it was initially set aside in a budget, no unlimited. So we had actually put money into a pool as really a litmus test to see what level of signal we got out of it, which proved to be very high level of signal and a low cost.
Yeah. So you chose to run a Pinterest, a public ongoing program, but you budgeted specifically for it.
Yep.
We offer at Bugcrowd, like, you can do a private program, which limits the number of researchers that have exposure to the to the endpoints, and we alternatively allow you to run an unlimited cost program. So you can top up your pool as much as you want. What sort of made you choose between those different types of programs? Like, why didn't you run a private program?
Well, there was engineering efforts that were restricting us from doing that. I'd say that if things were a little different, it would be more cost beneficial and also a little easier to do bug triage prior to releasing a product. Back to the budget thing, we really wanted to set aside some money and capital to test it out, and then as it looked and after the program ran, refactor and then add more money as needed.
Mm-hmm. And you found that you got good return on investment from the program?
Incredibly good return on investment.
Yeah. And to compare it to other types of security testing, for example, a traditional pen test or running a scanner. So how would a bug bounty or a program like the one that you ran at Pinterest compete against those kind of technologies?
Well, in my opinion, scanners are absolutely a waste of money. They usually fulfill a checkbox for PCI. If you can pull a little bit more signal out of it, great, but generally speaking, I think they require more human investment or engineering investment to maintain and run than a bug bounty program. Traditional pen testing, nothing's really going to beat it. However, if you've got thousands of eyes looking at your product versus a couple traditional pen testers that are costing you, 10x the cost, you're going to find that the thousands of eyes are going to be a lot more higher return on investment.
And you found that helps sweep up some of the things that you could have paid a lot more money for by running a traditional pen test against.
Yeah, it helps tune your pen testers. I mean, as bad as it sounds, at the end of the day, you want to have an empty report from a traditional pen tester.
Yeah. So a lot of work goes into creating a bug bounty brief. You can scope it as make it as focused or as wide as you'd like. So every endpoint that the company provides, or alternatively just the main site. How much difficulty did you have scoping it, and what did the scope end up being?
Well, as you just said, some companies can go very narrow, some people go very large. As I mentioned before, we wanted to start narrow so that we didn't have to worry about an overwhelmingly large amount of reports. I'd say that there was a couple complications really around what we would pay out. So there's no really Bible on what to pay on the marketplace right now. So what I ended up doing is doing some researching on other programs out there in the same similar space and size as Pinterest at the time. And what I found is that there was no concrete value to put on it, but there was relative value. So for us, we started very small. $20 went a long way. But as the program became more mature, we ended up upping the cost.
So your minimum spend or minimum reward was $20 to start off with?
Very minimum. I don't think we paid anything that low, but yeah, okay. That was on the bottom end.
And what was the top end?
At the time, I believe it was $150. Yeah.
Wow. And did you find that the guidelines or when you searched for guidance in what to price rewards at, did you find that there was a lot of clear guidance out there, or did you have to kind of come up with it?
I had to kind of come up with it. I talked to a few of industry professionals and even a few mentors in the space, And yeah, there was nothing concrete. So it was up to us to really come up with our own guidance, and then we actually leveraged Bugcrowd for a little bit of it too.
Yeah, so we've been working a lot on putting together some formal guidance on how to price vulnerabilities and how to set your reward low and high. So that will be coming out very soon. But I mean, you guys pretty much nailed it. You got the level of value you needed out of the pricing structure that you used. On the one side of the equation, there's the discovery and actual creation of the vulnerability. So you'll write some code, or an engineer will write some code, and then you'll run your bug bounty program, and that vulnerability will come back in. The other side is getting the engineers to fix it and to care about it. How did you integrate vulnerability reports back into the process at Pinterest? Engineering process at Pinterest.
So there wasn't no official SDLC. So the way that engineering did business on a day-to-day cycle was committing code multiple times a day. And that would be built and pushed into production. So addressing issues as they cropped up was, as I just said, as they cropped up.
Yeah.
So it was really a per diem.
It's an ad hoc approach.
It was ad hoc approach, and it was really difficult for us to really keep track of because it was on us. It wasn't necessarily inserted at any sort of formal bug queue for the engineering team. So it was on security to prioritize and chase down accordingly.
Yeah, and did you feel like you could get ahead of the vulnerabilities that were coming in, or did you feel like there was a more of a struggle?
At first, it was a little difficult. I think most people, if they do run a program, will find that things go in waves. So as you initially launch a program, you will get a slurry of reports. So that initial wave might take some time to catch up on. But as you have a more stable program, you should be able to keep up with it. And for us at Pinterest, we had not too difficult of a time to maintain the bugs that were reported.
Gotcha. From my experience at Bugcrowd, our engineering team follows an agile type process, and we have a process where each week we rotate an engineer into the fire or product support role. So we have also, like at Bugcrowd, it's great because we have an AppSec engineering team that we can just go to and say, like, what is this vulnerability and what does it mean to me, and why does it help me understand how to get it out of my code. I've found that's worked, just having someone on the engineering team be rotated into the role of looking at vulnerabilities, and then just having this cool AppSec engineering team to help them fix it. That has really helped us with our.
So it sounds like part of your user education program. You swap engineers into the process. It's good.
And they don't always love it, you know. Our engineers are great, but when it comes to like a new support task, I feel like we shouldn't think of it as a support task. It should be a mentoring and educational task.
Yeah.
So that's why we sort of make sure that the vulnerabilities are fixed, but also make sure that there's a report written by the engineer and put into our issue tracking to understand what the submission is and how it affects the security of the platform. What would your ideal sort of, as a lead or a security engineering head, what would your ideal life cycle look like, engineering life cycle, to be able to slot into?
Given that a lot of startups don't really have an official SDLC, I'd say a lot more companies are doing this continuous deployment or continuous integration. I think those that use like an agile model where you have sprints, I think it would be effective, and this is conceptually, if you had maybe 3 weeks on development and then 1 week addressing bugs, but also mixing in the security vulnerabilities and reports into that 1 week bug fixing process as well, ideally.
Cool. And did you find that the bug bounty program that you ran helped engineers or inspired engineers to become more interested in security?
Absolutely, it did, yeah. I think again, I think that a lot of other companies would find that this might do the same for theirs.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So what's your current take on the state of the security industry and security in general and bug bounty programs?
Well, I think things are progressing. I think the word SDLC, as I just mentioned, that has been in need of a lot of refinement for some years, and maybe it'll end up having the words bug bounty inserted into it. I feel that the programs can enhance any sort of security posture in various levels of a company's maturity, from a startup stage to an enterprise stage. Again, it's a matter of having the right resources and also scoping.
Thank you very much for your time today. Your input and experience in both the security space and running a bug bounty program has been very valuable to us. So I really appreciate the time you spend here with us, and best of luck for the future.